Even with a lovely colour combination, sometimes a watercolour painting can turn out a little bland and lifeless. But this value secret is the way to instantly improve that problem. Let me show you. This used to happen to me all the time when I first started painting. I'd find something that I really wanted to paint, usually because it had a lovely pop of colour, like a beautiful autumn tree. My favourite sort of thing to paint in loose expressive washes. And a little splash of red should be wonderful against the green because red and green are complementary colour pairs, so they usually always look exciting together. But as you can see, it's not always enough. That's because colour gets the credit, but value does the work. This is the value secret. Value means the light and dark. It's easier to see this if we take colour right out of the equation. So let's make this a black and white image. In grayscale, it is much easier to see just why this image looks so boring. The only information we have about the colours now is their relative light or darkness to each other. And here you can see that all the colours I used are a very similar shade of grey. Our brains see images first as graphic patterns without us realizing consciously, and then the brain fills in the color detail for us. But since everything is basically grey, this particular image has no pattern at all, therefore nothing really to see, and that's why it has no impact. The best way to give your painting a head start in the value department is with a little thumbnail sketch before you begin. A tiny little value study in your sketchbook that just maps in the darks and lights is all you need. If you look up no-tan studies, you'll find lots of examples of this sort of thing. I did one using the first markers I could find on my desk. That happened to be a turquoise one, which I used to plan the darks, and a lilac, which I used for the mid-values. The blank paper shows the lightest values. Of course, it would have been easier for us if I'd chosen a black and a grey marker, but never mind, I know how to fix that now. You can do lots of little thumbnails like this, trying out different arrangements of light and dark. There's no need to stick exactly to what you see in a reference photo or anything like that. This can be the chance to design the structure of your painting in the way that's most pleasing to you. So now that I have a value plan, let's have another go at creating a loose watercolour landscape. I like to roughly sketch in the basic placement of everything in the composition, and then I think I'll start with one of the lightest areas, those lovely sunlit fields. They're more of a yellow than a green, and I'll put those in with some loose fresh washes. I'm planning to simplify almost all of the detail in the reference, but one of the things I really liked was the shape of the embankment on the side of the road here. So I'm going to use the angle of my brush strokes to try and do a little bit more of a suggestion of that, using a slightly darker shade of green. This is another example of how useful it is to pay attention to the value, because it is the change in value here that is telling us about the shape of the land. Where I've put in those darker marks, we know that the angle has changed because that's getting less light. That's what's making it slightly darker down there. And then the top yellow surface is looking much more light-filled. And I can also add in a few more grass strokes, just not because I want to paint every stroke of grass, not at all, but a few of these marks in the foreground is going to help convey this sense of distance. Now, what about that road? I've got a grey colour that I'm going to use, but I want to keep this nice and pale because this was one of my lighter value sections. So I want to make sure that I'm not using too concentrated of a pigment here because I want to keep this a slightly paler wash. Time to paint that beautiful tree that made me want to attempt this image in the first place. I want to put in lots of colours, not just one colour, to make sure it's interesting. So I'm going to start with that same yellow colour that I put into the grass. And while those washes are wet, I want to put in some orange marks and the edges should blend. I've got a separate video all about that. I'll pop it in the cards. I'm also not trying to paint every single leaf. This is another part of simplifying the image. So what I'm really painting is the collective shapes that the groups of leaves are making. And I've swapped to some of the other warm colours in my palette. I've got some nice rich deep pinks, and I've even got a splash of red that I want to put in there. I'm also trying to leave a few sky holes, by which I mean I'll leave a few bits of unpainted paper, because that helps give us the sense that the tree is kind of light and airy and reminds us that it isn't just one solid shape, even if that is the way I'm largely painting it. So now I've got in the light sections and the midtones from my plan. Let's have a look at those darker sections. Even though those trees are dark, I don't just want to put in one solid block of colour. I want to keep using the same colours throughout and make sure there's some variety even in that dark section. So again, I'm going to start with my sunshiny yellow colour and put that in here and there before I add in my dark. This is a perylene green, which is a lovely rich dark. And again, I'm going to put it in so that the edges are soft and those colors will blend naturally on their own. I've also got a couple of other greens on my palette, and I'm kind of dipping into those so that I can mix the colors on the page, not on the palette, because I prefer the way the washes look when I do it like that. I also want to add in some even darker color. This is the same dark purple gray that I put into the road section. So that'll give us a nice harmony. But here, unlike with the road I was trying to make it quite dilute so that it stayed a pale light wash. But here I'm going to make sure it's nice and concentrated because I want to be dropping extra pigment into my dark row of trees at the back there, and if I put in too much water I'm going to just end up with a cauliflower mark. I've got another video all about that. I'll link that one up in the cards too. It's the one about the water secret. Now where these shrubs and trees end, where they meet the ground, that's a soft edge because of the way of the shape of the trees and the way they kind of curl into the ground. So it tends to be shadowy and indistinct. So I don't want too much of a hard line where this row of little trees is ending here. So what I can do is take my brush, clean it off, and with a damp edge, not wet, I can just soften off the bottom so that it ends a little bit more naturally and blends with the grass. In my little value study, I had decided that the trunk was part of the darkest sections of this little painting. So I want to put that in a nice strong dark color. And in some of the little sky holes, I can kind of hint at the suggestion of a little bit of a branch peeping through. It's not essential. It's quite fun to do if you happen to have some spaces. But remember that if the orangey red washes are still damp, you could get some color runs. So it can be a little bit risky, but really when you're doing a loose painting like this, that sort of thing can often end up being the best parts of the painting. I want to connect the dark trunk with the dark shadow that is falling across the little track and over to the grassy verge on the other side. The sky in the reference photo was very, very pale, and I could almost leave this just being the white of the page, but it can have the kind of look of something that you just forgot to do. So I'd rather put in a very soft wash of a pale blue color. It could be a plain flat wash, of course, but I find those a little bit boring. I'd rather have a little bit of movement in my sky. Most of the time I would start with painting the sky and then layer things on top of them, but because I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do with it, I just left it until I could see what the rest of the painting looked like. And because I've used that light blue color for the first time, I want to integrate the top half and bottom half of the painting, and a little bit of splatter is perfect for that. And now that I've started splattering, I can't stop, because the other thing I'd quite like to put down there is a little bit of the red and orange, so let's do a bit of that splatter too. A loose painting like this relies a lot on the quality of the various edges in the painting, and so that is something I've got a separate video about. I'm going to pop that up on the screen in case you want to watch that one next.